Yeah, so I really appreciate you all coming. A lot of these, there's some of you at least came many years ago when we first started, and we learned a lot from the Johns and have wholesaled to Bodie. So and I'm excited to meet everybody else. So this is my husband, Nathan. We started our company, Idaho Neighborhood Solutions, in 2016. And so we have done about 150 deals. Probably about 60% of them we have wholesaled, and 40% we have flipped. The majority of them we have just, bought with hard money or used our own money. We have some regular properties that we did the BRRRR method with. But a few of them, small percentage, we have done some more creative deals, and we can, if we like to do that if we can, because it's less money, out of pocket. So anyway, so I'm going to tell you what I know. There are a lot of people that know more, but hopefully I know something. If you have some comments, please chime in. I'm here to learn as well. And Nathan can, add some things maybe that I don't remember. So anyway, appreciate you coming. Okay. So what we go direct to seller to buy our properties, but I think this would work. You could pay attention and look at it on the MLS as well and see if you could work with Stacy to get some of these maybe more creative deals under contract. And you know what? I'm gonna go. Okay. I worked with her on the slides for a while ago, and I couldn't remember the order. But anyway, so I'm going to go to this one first. And Stacy, we kind of brainstormed on this one. So the reasons to learn more about creative finance right now are, the big one is that it's just hard to find deals that work because the interest rates, they're just so high. A lot of what we get is more investor loans, or not even through the bank, they're DSCR loans, which cover, they have to make sure that you cover the rent and the taxes and the insurance, and the rates for those are even higher. I mean, I think we're up at like close to 9%. So that's just really, really hard to make it work with any, for the sellers to get any money out of their house. So that's kind of a problem. So anyway, that's a good reason to figure out creative finance. So we all know, how high interest rates are and how high home prices are. Not a lot of properties anywhere. So if you do it, sometimes it makes the numbers work. There are people that are way more creative than we are. There's one guy around that his deals kind of blow my mind. But the thing I think to remember about creative financing is you can really structure it for what works for you and the seller. So the sky's the limit as to what you can negotiate with them. So if one of the reasons I met Stacy, or one of the ways I met Stacy, is I was looking for someone to buy a property, sort of a creative finance that we need to do. We couldn't buy it ourselves at that point in time. And so that's how I met her. So it is part of what we do. We started out flipping, and then we moved to wholesaling, and have just sort of worked the creative part in there. And the bottom one says, smart realtors see investors as an asset instead of a threat. That's sort of a thorn in my side with the realtors, because there are a lot of realtors, and that's what I really liked about Stacy. She's really kind of open-minded and more investment focused realtors. So if you're an investor, I think you're lucky to work with this group because they really are open to various, ways of doing it. And I think it's, they're a great referral for any friends you have that are kind of in the same boat. So, okay, so I'm just going to go through some of the deals that we have done. And then if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. So this house is in Kuna. This is the first one. And so these, we advertise online. And so these people called us, and what they wanted to do was stay in their house. They really didn't want to sell they were in kind of financial bind, and their kids were, in school, and they had just owned their home for a little bit, and they were established, but they really needed the equity out of it. And so we were not at that point in a position to buy this one. And I think we had just kind of ramped up our wholesaling. Weren't really, we weren't really looking to buy it that time. But anyway, I called Stacy, and what she ended up doing is she came out and looked at it. I talked to them, found out what they needed. She came out and looked at it. The cool thing with this one that I thought she did I thought very insightful was they said they could pay a certain amount of rent, but she realized that would have really stretched them. And she didn't want to be in a spot where she had to evict them, from a house that they've been looking for a solution. So she had them, she put part of the purchase price towards a prepayment of the mortgage. And then they were okay with that. It worked out, and they're still there. And I guess he got a job, or not a different job, or a raise or something, because now she told me they qualified for the rent. Well, and and it worked out. So anyway, so that's how I kind of met her. And it was no, she just bought it. Yeah, she bought it. That was when, yeah, they pay her rent. Exactly. Yeah, they're just tenants. Yep, they are. And I really liked what she said. They're great owner-like tenants to this day who take good care of the property and very discreetly rent instead of own their family's home. And they were happy with the price they paid. So, and I remember when we did this one, it's, you really have to find out what they need and see if there's something you can do that accommodates that. And I don't think you can really go into it thinking I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, because it's kind of all about what the seller needs. And I mean, there were some dicey little things. We didn't make a whole lot on the wholesale, but we were glad that they could stay, that we could figure it out. And I don't know that any other realtor, anybody else, would have really done it. And she wanted to do it with us to see if, I think because she'd been on our wholesale list for a while and gotten our deals, and wanted to see if it really, if it really would work, if the realtor and the wholesaler could work together. We basically wholesaled it. And so I met with her. They called us. I went out and met with them the first time, found out what they needed, and then kind of thought, okay, this is what needs to happen. This isn't something that we could do ourselves, ourselves at this point in time, but I still think it's a good enough deal. The numbers are there that somebody would appreciate it. So it was kind of a unique one, because it did need an end buyer to think creatively as well. So she was putting down way more down than we would have put down. Yes. Yeah. Basically made sense to her, but it didn't make sense to us. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that's a good thing to, network with other investors. We have a wholesale list, but which most people don't have if you don't, or a buyer's list, most people don't have if you don't are involved in wholesaling. But I think you can still go to, all the investment meetings and meet people and talk to people and, keep track of what they're looking for and write them down and, talk to realtors when you meet them. Because I think there are, people you come across and, people in situations that you can help if you just know how to, hook up the right people. So, anyway, I'm glad to know that one is working really well, because they were just so nice. It was during COVID. I remember we met there in masks, and the whole thing was kind of crazy, but anyway, Stacy's 2 masks stick out to me. So anyway, so that one was not in need of distress, and they called us, and I don't know how many of those, would stand. A lot of those, that's kind of a unique situation, but for the most part, people that are in some kind of situation, and these are the houses I think you could look for in the MLS. And these, I think, especially now, because I have noticed that they're the ones that sit there longer. I don't think the buyers have enough. The payment is so high, they don't have enough left over to fix up a house, where they could do that before, but now it seems like the fixers sit there longer. Would you say that's true, Leslie? Or
Oh, I think it depends on the price point.
the price point, yeah. If it's low enough, of course, they'll take it, but it's a better shot as investors. I think it's a better shot than we have had for several years with the ones on the MLS. And then if you happen to drive around and, see one in your neighborhood or do whatever, if you're driving for dollars or whatever, the ones that are just clearly a little bit needy, or, they're ones that they just say, if this person is more likely than anybody else to be in a situation, you're looking for needles in a haystack, but there are very few needles out there, but they are there. But this type of house, they're just more likely to be in the situation of needing some help. So, so you look for signs of distress. You note the high days on market if you're looking on the MLS. I think that I haven't done this myself, but I think that you could work with, if you're a realtor or you're working with Stacy or Tony or anybody else with your group, the realtor to realtor relationship, would you say that is a lot? Because Nathan's a realtor also. And I think as a realtor, you have some credibility to call another realtor and say, hey, I have a client and noticed this house and we're wondering if your seller would be interested in, some alternate options. I know it's been on the market a long time. So it's a funny story. We have a guy that used to work for us, and I talked to him today, and he was telling me that he had been texting realtors to see, because he wants to buy a house for himself. He'd been texting realtors himself to see if they would be open to a creative option, and he hadn't gotten any responses. And it's just kind of two different worlds, the realtor and the investor. And so you kind of need, maybe I'll refer him to you guys. You could just kind of need the realtor / investor to bridge the worlds between the realtor and the investor, in my opinion. Did you want to see something?
Well, I think in general, people don't make enough offers. I mean, we've had houses for sale and people will look at them and say, oh, yeah, it's overpriced or whatever. But I always think, well, why don't you make an offer? Maybe you're not interested, but I just think people in general, and I'm just surprised how many times people don't make offers that, I mean, gosh, it can't hurt, right? Throw out an offer, what do you think it's worth? But so many times people just pass, and people, you don't know what family, you don't know what position the seller's in. I mean, they may take it.
Yeah. So, so I think, but I do think just get with the realtor that's investor focused. And I think that's really important because most are not, but the ones that are really can bridge that gap. So everybody, this is kind of an interesting point. Everybody right now is wondering what's happening with the foreclosure market. There are more foreclosures. I have heard that there are more modifications. Do any of you know anything about that? I don't expect there to be a big foreclosure wave. I have heard various people, there are always people on YouTube. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube about real estate stuff. And you have your people, the market's going to crash, the market's soaring, the market, foreclosures, we're having a huge wave, foreclosures, they're all going to get modified. So you just have everything in between. But that is a possibility, I think, for these types of deals, because some of them, they obviously all aren't going to get modified. They probably don't even all want to stay in their house. So anyway, so if you have access to that information, that's a possibility. And then the other thing about it is you want to create just a win-win situation. I'm a big believer in you don't want to set people up for failure, which as Stacy, really thought that they probably might have not have been able to pay, and she found a way around it. So anyway, so you want to find out what they need, see if you can come up with anything that can help them. Okay, so there are a few ways to do it. General ways. The most basic is just the owner finance. When they own the property, and this is just the most wonderful thing, and it's the best, but they own the property, you're just dealing with the owner of the property. You're making payments to them over time. You can give them a down payment. You can negotiate their rate. So you have a lot of options, but the things that you're working with are basically what they want for the home. And to some people, it's really important that they get their price. You know, even if you're paying like 0% interest. The other people say, you know, they want to make 150,000. You know, your purchase price says 150,000, you're making payments. This is just a theoretical, wonderful example that, you know, maybe happened before, but anyway. So, say your guy wanted 150,000. He wanted to know that he was getting 150,000, and he honestly really did not care if you paid him 0% interest or 1% interest, or just, that was really important. So then you have your people who, the purchase price isn't so important, but it's more important what they get out of it, what they're going to end up with in 30 years, right? So you could put, you know, $10,000 down and you could figure it out to whatever interest rate and, you know, whatever payment makes sense for your situation, for your renters or whatever, and then work it out with him that way. But to him or her, the most important thing is they can look at that number and say, at the end, we're going to end up with this. So it justifies to themselves that, okay, I got everything I can, you know, I got what I wanted out of my house, and I took these people for a ride, and they're thinking, I really, you know, I'm glad I could get the house. And so it worked out great. And then the other thing is the length of time. We have a deal that's like a 36-year note. I will be 82. You know, who knows if I'll be alive or even non-senile at that time, but provided if they stay there the whole time, we'll be 82. We laughed about it when we were figuring it out, you know, because the whole thing about it was, and I'll tell you about it in a minute, but the whole thing was that they can only pay $1,000 a month. So we had to figure out what was going to work, and it was like 36, and it was some weird interest rate, and but you know, worked out great for everybody. So anyway, if you all know me when I'm 82, you can ask me if still worked out. And then the other thing is the down payment. Obviously we all want to put down as much as possible, but not in every situation, you know, just kind of depends on how much money you have available at the time and what you want to do with it, you know, whether you're going to just be out the money and you're okay with that for a while, or you're going to, you know, keep it for 6 months and then refinance. And now you have the fixed rate and the arms are back and all that. So anyway, you have that also.
What about the after the terms and the maintenance? Who shares that?
That's a really good question. So it depends on the way, on what you're doing. Yeah.
You just gotta be clear on whether you're talking about buying or selling.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So just a basic owner carry.
So when we're buying,
We as the property owner are responsible for the taxes and the insurance. And then,
Maintenance?
yes,
Whoops, what a year.
yes. So this, if you just do a traditional deal, that's what this one is. So let me tell you about this one. And that will demonstrate. Okay, so this is in Payette. It's 725 6th Avenue North. We bought it from Jim, I think. And he had a renter in place. He didn't need the money. He did want to he wanted to make a certain amount at the end of the deal. So we negotiated a small down payment. I think it was $5,000. Like a 5% interest rate. This was several years ago. 5% interest rate, and we pay him every month for 20 years. We have a tenant in here. We actually inherited his tenant, and she stayed for a couple of years, and now she's gone. We have a different tenant, but because we own it, it's just a standard rental. We bought it, and then we bought it with private money, and then we refinanced it in 6 months. The insurance,
you're talking about a different one?
this one, the insurance and the taxes are just wrapped up in the payment. It's just a really standard, it's just a really standard payment. So that's just your,
Seller with the bank.
so that's just a really, really basic one. It works really great. If it's free and clear, they can decide whatever they want to do, how, you know,
So in this case, seller has no mortgage, he owns the. property
Correct.
100%, and then
Yes,
actually transfer the title, either he has to the,
yeah,
you own the title, right?
yes, we went through a regular closing. Yep, uh-huh.
And
Yeah, we went through a regular closing. We bought it. We owned it for 6 months and then we refinanced it through Academy Mortgage.
So in that case, the all taxes and insurance goes for you, not for him.
Yes. Yep, yeah,
and so
we
you
just
could
make a monthly payment to him every
set
month.
up a couple different ways to, so this one, yeah, that one's fine here. Well, I think it's cool about it is when you set it up, like, it's what's first intimidating is you're like, if you look at loan documents, I mean, there's so many, and basically you just write it out on the contract and just plain old terms, and the title company will turn it into like real meaningful recorded documents, you know, you just kind of use plain text. And as long as you understand it and they understand it, and if you miss a deep, I don't know, if you miss something, you'll figure it out.
Yeah,
What else? But you can actually set it up, we've only done, Pioneer, well, I would say.
Long-
but,
long,
services the.
Yeah.
this mortgage, so, but you can actually set it up so that they will hold, they'll have all the accounts where they hold the taxes and the insurance.
That's gross bill.
Yeah, but they won't pay them for you, so it's kind of a, and this one, we don't, they don't have an escrow account for us, but we have some others. And they'll hold it, and they'll just hold whatever you tell them. And then, depending on your agreement, but then you have to send, I can't remember if they send you the money, or you send them the bill and they send the money. But it's not automated at all, there's, you know, like it is with a mortgage, mortgages, you know, of course, they pay the tax, insurance, you just never have to worry about it. There's a little more to do on that, but.
yeah.
Have you guys found that when you do an owner finance, when you buy based on owner finance, does the owner want some type of loan fee?
You know, we haven't ever found that, and we probably haven't, yeah, I don't think they're generally that savvy. I might be, but
Well, I think you made a good point earlier too, is that, you know, we always tend to think that like, oh, they want a certain interest rate or something, it just depends on the person, like this guy wanted a certain sell price, that's what was important to him. But sometimes, so like you can tell people like, oh, okay, so you want 150, all right, how about if I just spread that out over 10 years, or just kind of whatever, but you don't have to. It might be zero interest, right? Say, how about if I make those in payments, or if I make payments for 10 years and then at the end I give you a balloon or whatever. You just don't start giving them market value for interest because. I have to.
Well, they come back to you so that they are not being educated, and taking advantage. It's close to you.
Also, we haven't had that happen with anybody. We haven't had anybody that was zero interest, but. I mean, we would explain it to them. I don't think I would say, oh, well, you could be charging 8% or whatever, but.
yeah, like I think it's,
That's the other thing. I always feel better because the title company is like a neutral third party, right? So everything can run through them. We're not just. Recording things. That's why I always makes me feel better because like they have somebody who's on their side against, or at least neutral. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean. There is a part to it when you start doing some of the stuff we're doing where it's like. You have a lot of responsibility, especially when you start selling on some of the land contracts. You really need to hold up your end of things. I think people really haywire for a buyer on that stuff. So you gotta.
yeah, so.
I never feel bad because we're honest about it, so. But you just kind of be like, oh my gosh, you really screwed.
I don't know, I look at that place.
Oh my gosh, we paid, I think we paid like,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The owner probably hasn't had it in a long time.
Yeah.
Just looking for cash.
he just wanted to retire and, not worry about it, and it. It was right when rates were, or prices were kind of going up out there, and so
I don't know.
I think we paid like 45,000 or something, but it was many years ago. But yeah, I mean, he really wanted easy. And I think the thing to remember about it is a small percentage of all deals are done this way. It probably will become more common. Like there was a slide in here. I don't know what happened to it, but maybe I just didn't see it. But anyway, pre 2016, but we started in 2016. We started in real estate investing, and up to that point, creative finance was kind of a bigger deal. Like there was a lot of talk about, taking over payments and things, which I'm going to talk about. And then for the last several years, there hasn't really been a need for that to exist. When your properties are, everything is, flying off the shelves that gets listed, there's just really like, why you even focus on that too much. So we bought this in Payette, like before prices really went up in Payette. And so they were still in that situation. But now that's kind of, I think there's really a benefit to learning how to do it, because it's tough out there. It's tough for sellers, especially if their property is a little weird. Your 3 2s and the 2 1s that are nicely fixed up, they still sell really well. But I think the further you get from that, and especially things that if there's just something weird about the property, then buyers are hesitant. So I just think it's really a good time to kind of revisit all of this.
Question, do you recall if you've done this in the MLS?
We
Somewhat.
we do a lot of marketing, so we just sent out postcards, and I was a postcard guy, and that worked a lot better then than it does now. But that's where this one came from. Okay, did any of you have any questions? Any other questions about this one? Okay, cool. Okay, oh, here we go. Okay, so the second part, or the other part, if you don't, if they don't own the property, or if they're still making payments, they have a mortgage on the property, you have to do this thing, which is called subject to. This is the thing that was really common in 2016. And it basically means that you are buying the property subject to the existing mortgage, which if you haven't thought about it before, it's kind of a crazy thought, but you can buy the property can be in your name, and the mortgage can be in the seller's name. So those two things, as crazy as it sounds, are not necessarily linked together. So it is coming back. There are some people that do, some wholesalers in the area that do a lot more of these deals than we do. We bought one of them, which I'll go over in a minute. And then, so what you're doing is and you probably might have heard this term, but you're taking over their payments. So that means that you, as the new buyer or new owner, are making the payments on their existing loan. If you think about it, if you were selling a house, is there any reason that you would ever give somebody else responsibility for your mortgage payment? I wouldn't, right? Not unless it was like the situation was dire. Okay, so you have, I think basically if a seller is going to do this, it's because they are in a situation, that they've got to sell it pretty fast, generally. Got to sell it pretty fast, or they think the possibility of selling it down in any reasonable amount of time is pretty remote. So you have those people, or you have the group that is just super short-sighted. And even though they had a better option, even though there probably is a better option out there, they just say, okay, somebody will take over my payment, and I won't have to make it anymore. Those are the people you have to really make sure that you take really good care of them, because this can be a really good thing for you and them. It really can be. You take over the payment, like maybe they haven't been making it consistently, they have bad credit, you're going to bring their credit up. I mean, it really can be. It's just that it's very easy to take advantage of people, and we do not want to do that. Okay, so with this, you can negotiate it either a short term, like you're going to take over their mortgage forever for 25 years or whatever they have left on it. We've only done one of these, and I'll show you a picture. Or you can do a short term deal, and we've done lots of these where we take it over to short term while we fix it up, flip it, sell it, or to fix it up and sell it, so we flip it. So here are some examples.
Quick question.
Yeah,
Does this require their loan to be assumable?
no, that's actually a really good question. It doesn't. The risk you run is that the bank,
You're not doing it with bank's knowledge. No, the bank doesn't know you've done.
yeah, it's not illegal. It's just that if they find out that the title has changed, they have the legal right to call the note due. To say, okay, you have to, either the title has to go back into this person's name, or you have to refinance and get it out of your name. So, if you listen to anybody that's done a lot of these, it's very rare that that happens. It might be more common, and investors that do this a lot are a little more worried about it now. Because there's such a difference in 3% that the bank was making and 8% that they're making now. So they may be looking for it, but in general, if bills getting paid, they don't pay a lot. Most places don't pay a lot of attention. I have been told that Idaho Housing and Finance monitors, we're about to find out. And so they're on it more, and they will call it due. I don't know how true that is, but we're gonna try it and we'll let you know.
Yeah, well, you have to be prepared for that. It could happen. You have to be prepared for it.
Basically, the numbers have to be good enough that if you had to refinance, you could. It's still got to be a good deal.
So just so I understand, you as buyers are going into a certain situation. The seller's willing to let you take over their payments. Their name stays on that document.
Yes,
Do you actually get the title to the house?
yes,
Okay.
yes. It's called what it is. It's called a, I will go forward in my
That's-
slide.
Like this joint.
Isn't it crazy?
It does.
It is really a mind bender. It is totally a mind bender. The mortgage company. Mhm. Okay,
When you put the title in there, or you
can talk about the
sell a title
standards, yeah.
Loan.
what we do is we have the sellers leave the homeowner's insurance in place, because generally that is the thing that triggers the mortgage company. We have never had a note called due. Yeah, we go through a regular closing. Mhm. Well, yes, so you're buying it with the liens in place.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
it's subject to, you're buying it subject to. the
Yeah,
existing
but so
finance.
that's,
You make the payments, or you make the.
we make the payments. Yeah, we make the payments.
So that's the clue right there for the landlord, that the original owner is not making the payment.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
But don't you just hold
It's crazy. I know it's crazy, believe me.
don't you just hold that in escrow until you actually pay them off?
The mortgage payment, or,
When you close, and the title transfers to the buyer, don't you just hold that and bring it to escrow so nobody knows about it?
No, they record it. You want to.
they do, yeah.
Nobody would know.
Okay, so it's really crazy. I had a really hard time wrapping my head around it at first. I really did. So yeah, so when you do the subject to, so there are a couple of things you can do, or really probably several things you can do under subject to. The wrap mortgage is one of them. So it's the reason that I like the wrap mortgage is that if the title is in your name, if you are the owner on every record there could be, there is no way that any more liens can attach to the property. So,
So what if you go to sell the property? Then how does the whole this thing collapse?
well, you own the property, and so, yeah, so the title company, when you sell it, they have to give clear title, right? So they just pay off the seller's mortgage. And then,
Okay,
You're
so
good to
there's a
go.
wrap, so it's called a wrap, just because you're wrapping the first mortgage with a second mortgage. But then you can also have, think about it, like if the seller owes 150,000 and you're paying 200, right? So you have this balance. You can either give it to them when you close, in which case you're just carrying on the 150 and they walk away with 50, or you could wrap it so that you're receiving payments on the other two. Okay, so now you have a first and a second within the route. I don't know how it's done at the title company, but I mean, effectively, that's what happens. You're making one payment, title company then sends the money to the first mortgage, then they'll send money to the people as well.
What if you as the buyer stop making the mortgage payment?
The problem is that the bank would foreclose and then, but it would go against the seller's credit.
Right?
It wouldn't hurt us at all. And so that's why you think, okay, as a seller.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, I wouldn't do that, right? It's gotta be a seller who really just doesn't see another option. And like it's like what we do,
Not for everybody.
it kind of, I mean, it kind of invites the slime factor, right? Hopefully you can all tell, like, we have a lot of really great reviews. We're not that, but I mean, you can really take advantage of people in like horrible situations. And I'm like
Not that you can take advantage of it as much, but you know,
no, but I mean,
you gotta make sure you pull it.
yeah, and I'm like,
You can do it, there's so many different ways you can handle it though, right?
Mhm.
If they have the second within there, they can.
oh yes, okay, so what we do,
You can,
you can what we prefer to do is you put a quick claim in place
yeah.
that says if their mortgage isn't paid, it triggers that and it goes back into their name. And because I was quite hesitant about doing it at first, because I just couldn't believe that anybody would do that, right? Like, what in the world, why would I feel like a crazy proposing this. But that's what we came up with, is just put a quick claim in place, and so they're not gonna be out the property, and you will have caught up the property, so they'd be probably in better shape.
The title company would hold a quick claim, you sign, that if you were 60 days behind, then they would automatically trigger it, and they would be the owner again. And then they benefited from whatever equity you paid
Yeah.
down, you don't get anything at that point.
So my folks, back in the days of Jimmy Carter, they actually held they took the money and they continued to make the payments. So they made sure that those mortgage payments still got made. And then their renters or buyers stopped making those payments, and they had to kick them out, foreclose on them. So that was a twist. that
Sure,
we're talking
yeah,
about.
that's
It was-
great,
It was a crappy time, but they
Yeah.
didn't get too burned.
Yeah,
They were
Yeah.
seller.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
seller,
They were
held-
A lease option.
Yep.
yeah, that's what we did in the past, and with option. We call the title, and we call the mortgage, and then they pay to us, they make sure, shall I pay their portion, never immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, we have some. Yeah, we have some like that. We have some like that too. Yeah, I think the important thing to remember is you're trying to help people, like, you're just really trying to say, okay, so what I do, is there a way that what I do could benefit you and benefit me? Right? Because I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody. Now, there are tons of investors now. The sellers are much less likely to get, taken advantage of. You used to hear they'd only paid me such a low price. Well, now you could call 5 investors off of Google if you want to sell your house, and so people are much more savvy, I would say, as sellers. So they're going to sell for their home for generally as much as they can, or within reason. I mean, they'll sell to you if they, a little bit less if they like you. But in general, they're going to get as much as they can. You're going to pay as much as you can, and you're going to meet, in the middle and, figure something out. So if they're only going to do it if it's advantageous to them, and as long as you're going into it saying, I'm not going to take advantage of you, you have something in place that will prevent that if if something terrible happens, then that's when you do it. So these are the times that we have done wrap mortgages. One of them is long-term, and most of them are, the other ones are short-term. So, okay, so this is 390 North 9th Street. It's still in progress. It is not that crazy combination of colors anymore. We paid our son, going to college age son, to do a little painting. So helped him out. And then I had picked a terrible green door color, so I had to go down and paint the doors red. Okay, but the interesting thing about this one is, so I mentioned this wholesaler that's in the area. If you are interested in getting on his list, I can give you his name, but they negotiate these very interesting deals with people, and his name is Ryan Weimer. And it's his Offer Now Idaho is their company. Yeah, he's a wholesaler.
Kind of specialized in creative.
So yeah, they do that. They have properties that are, you can buy to flip or rent or whatever. But anyway, they do some of these interesting deals. And so this one worked for us. You just kind of have to look at them and say, does it work for me? This is the one that worked for us. Most of them don't work for what we need. But anyway, so what we're going to do, this guy, I did not negotiate this with this seller because it was a wholesale. But what he negotiated with the seller is that they would, okay, maybe I should just read off of here. So that Ryan's company wanted $30,000 as a wholesale fee. So we paid them $30,000 in cash, okay? The balance on the seller's loan was $120,000 and the ARV was $200,000. So to flip that house, it was not going to work. It wouldn't, when we buy and refinance, we do the BRRRR method because we don't really want to leave money in it. And so it didn't really work for that, because it needed some rehab. The BRRRR method means you BRRRR, BRR, it means you buy and then you find a renter and then you hold it for 6 months and you refinance. So buy, rent, refinance, and then repeat, do it again. It was super popular when rates were lower and it works great. Now it's harder to make it work, but if you can, that's all. Okay. So we could not flip this house. However, he sent it out as a wholesale deal. The buyer wanted, did we make money to the buyer? Okay, we just took over his 120. So Ryan got 30,000 out of it. The buyer or the seller got out of his mortgage. So and they could do this, like this one was kind of run down. This is probably a reason that someone would do this. So his property was run down. I think he had a hard time selling it in Mountain Home because a lot of those are their VA and their FHA. And so they're really picky, you know, we all know that. Yeah, I don't know. The neighbor told me that no realtor would sell, but I don't know. Anyway, but if he did, that's probably why he couldn't, because FHA and VA are really picky and he didn't have, the seller or the former owner didn't have the money to put into it to fix it up. So he's kind of stuck, right? So, so he was okay if somebody just took over his loan payments. He got the 120. Yeah, so that's the 120,000. So his payments are, how much are they? I should have looked. Like $892 or something like that. So and his loan is just a regular loan. It's a conventional loan or an FHA. It includes the payment and then the taxes and insurance. Yeah. So we right now are paying that. And then at the moment we're out our 30,000. So I hope to be.
This seller walked away without equity.
Correct.
So he just said,
yes,
that was all in and gone.
Yes. And so we are planning to sell it on a contract for deed, which I will get to in just a minute.
Just similar to itself.
Yeah.
You think same thing.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, basically to an end buyer. I think that it has gone up enough that, or the market, maybe I was wrong in my numbers. There's the first time we may be able to flip it, but I think this is what we're planning on doing. It's got a old time 50s kitchen. I should have done a picture of it. But anyway, but it's a nice property. Like it's right by a park and it's just I don't know, it's a funny little place on the lot. But this one, I don't know. This is like kind of rare that one of those deals works for us, but like it used to be a 2-1 and now it's a 3-2. And like they had done a lot of the work. So it worked. We'll see. We don't have it quite finished yet. It's almost ready to go. And then we'll advertise for a buyer and do it that way. And then the guy's loan will stay in place for he hadn't had it for that long, so like 25 years or something. I mean,
Yeah.
a long time.
So he received the monthly, statements, the hard copies, but then he gave us the login and I log in. And 'cause I have to get the statements for our, bookkeeper every month. But yeah, I log in as him, then I changed his email address to me, and changed his cell phone number to me, because you have to be like. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a lot of trust.
Have you guys looked into, since it's an FHA loan, have you guys looked into assuming that one? Or is it just too much of a hassle?
We haven't, we maybe could. Our most FHA loans assumable are some of them.
Well, I've been told VA and FHA is assumable.
I have heard the VA is, but I didn't know about FHA.
Yeah.
So,
No, I was thinking, no, it's not. You have to be definitely.
Why did everybody say that shit?
Well, VA loans are simple,
But it has to
but
be
you have,
simplified, but
yeah.
Yeah,
was my-
yeah,
That's
exactly,
qualified,
exactly.
that's qualified.
About
I was
medical.
wondering about that. Yeah, okay.
yeah, so, when we sell it, we are planning to ask for a, down payment from our new buyer, which my mom is one of our lenders and we borrowed $30,000 from her to pay the wholesale fee. So she has a second mortgage on this. It's kind of a funny one. She has a second mortgage on this first mortgage that doesn't even belong to us. So,
Developing pioneers, so they take the money out of our.
yeah.
They pay the mortgage and they pay both mortgage.
And if you do it, like, there are a lot of really good escrow officers around here, but do it with somebody who has done more creative financing things, more wraps, and I know several.
so this ARV, I'm not sure what that is, but is that the value you determine you have to sell it or to make, to flip it or make money?
Yeah, the ARV is the after repair value.
Okay.
Yeah, so, so we just look at the MLS and generally pick a nice rehab, if there's a trend of what a nice rehab, not an over the top rehab or not a, not a non-rehab, but yeah. So, and then we have our spreadsheet and, book all the numbers in, and
But your input for $30,000 plus taking over the loan, that's.
doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it's a,
The cash, the rehab is gonna cost me about pocket, we have the second where we got.
yes. So my mom,
Right, but I mean, what about
yeah,
money out of somebody's pocket?
sure,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So what our initial plan was, because my mom is one of our lenders, she did it, but we would rather have the money to buy properties and flip them. And so we're planning to use the down payment to pay down the second to her. So hopefully this all works out. I can let you know in a month or so. And then the oh yeah, we better kind of
About 8 minutes. left.
8 minutes, okay, that's okay, we've covered most of it. So this one, so this, I kind of tend to do that. So, that's right. So this one was, in Mountain Home, and this, we've done several of these. This is just a short-term wrap. We generally do it for 8 months, a term of 8 months, and it saves. We can offer the seller a little bit more money because instead of getting a hard money loan or, private loan and paying interest on it, we give the money to them and we can offer them a little bit higher price if they're okay waiting just until we flip it. But we put the same things in place, the quitclaim deed and everything. I should have probably done the one at Emmett, because one time, always get your own insurance. Always definitely get your own insurance. Leave their insurance in place so it doesn't trigger anything, but get your own insurance, because one time one of our properties had a fire and we came out much better than we probably would have if that hadn't happened, but was kind of hairy for a little bit. So get your own insurance. Oh, and then, yeah, they had a tenant, we did cash for keys, which means that we paid them a little bit of money to keep the house in good condition and then move out. So that's, this is Inez. This is one of my favorite houses ever. Instead of, when you do a wrap, you can either do fixed price or you can do a percentage of the proceeds. We did a percentage of the proceeds. This lady wanted a little more than we could pay, that I knew we could pay. I thought it would probably sell for more, but I wasn't comfortable. We weren't comfortable making that higher offer, but I said, look, if you can do if I could take over your payments for just 8 months at the max. And if it had gone past that, we would have had to refinance, but if I can take over your payments, or make the payment on your loan, then I'm pretty confident that it'll sell and you'll get, your percentage will make you more money than just my regular cash offer. So that's what we did for that. Okay, so then this is the other thing. This is my buddy Larry. He lives in Twin Falls. He called and said, we have several houses like this. He called and said, we're renting my friend's house, my wife's friend's house. It's causing problems. Could you buy it? And then we'll buy it from you. So I said, probably. So I went and looked at it. This is what we did. We got a regular loan on it. And we're selling to him on a contract for deed, which, do you want to explain what that is?
Oh, it's just like a lease option, except for, it's not just.
The lease option,
It's essentially, yeah, you're just, they're making, it's, the contract for deed, the reason it's called that, is it's a contract for the deed. If they satisfy all the requirements of the contract, to get the deed, otherwise you're holding it. So you own it the whole time, once they make the last payment. And then, that's also goes through Pioneer. It can, most of ours do, but, yeah, so that's pretty much it. So they don't make payments, then you can evict them rather than foreclose them.
and one interesting thing that I have just discovered on this is if your contract with them says that they're responsible for paying the taxes, they can take it to the county and get the homeowner's exemption, which I thought was pretty cool. And if you do that, you want them to go to the plat room and then go across to the assessor and apply for the homeowner's exemption. So Larry's thrilled. The really great thing about this is it's not a tenant situation. You're not responsible for anything. Like, it's their house. Larry has recited. I've driven by. It's beautiful. And like, they were really, really happy. Like, they were so happy because they really wanted to buy a house. He wouldn't have qualified for a mortgage, but they had put some, they had lived here, put some work into it, didn't want to put a ton more work into it if they, they didn't own it. So anyway, so this is just a really, really fabulous option for everybody. We've never had to kick anybody out, so.
Well, it's kind of like the ease of having a property manager, right? You don't have to collect the rent yourself. Well, in this case, if it goes to Pioneer, you're not collecting the money yourself. It's going to Pioneer, and it's already set up that there's late fees, however you set them up with the person, you set them up with Pioneer. So then, I just don't even worry. Like, if the guy doesn't, if he doesn't make his payment, it's just at a certain date. We just have it set up so that if they're so late, then we'll send them a certified letter, and then, we'll go. We haven't had to go through the process to get them out yet, but we just. I don't know. I
I'm
don't worry
like-
about it too much because Pioneer has the fees on.
Like, okay, the contract says if you're 30 days late, what does it say? I'll give you 30 days to catch it up or something. If you can't do that, I could, we could start the foreclosure process. Well, we would not, we're not gonna do that. Pardon me?
Yeah,
On the tide, you just evict.
Oh, yeah, a victim. Okay. So we
Well, this is seller retains legal title. And you guys are the
That's
buyers.
us. No, we already
Yeah.
bought it.
Did I-
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Also like a note,
yeah.
and they're.
We just bought it conventionally, I guess you'd say. just
We
got-
bought it and then 6 months later we refinanced.
So you're making money because they're making payments to you.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And you had to work with him. He had $1,000. That was $1,000 guy. We figured out, okay, this is my 82 years, or I'll be 82 years old, if he stays out.
We've done that too. We've just
Yeah.
asked the buyer, we say, so tell me, I want to know how much you can afford to pay. Because I don't want to come to you every month for rent. I just want the payments to roll in. And they look at you, because sometimes they offer you more than you really expected. And then I just take and carry the financing out for the number of years and interest and is returned. And you're thanked because you gave them an affordable loan. And in some cases, it's their first time they ever bought a house.
And they
And
probably,
they're
if they're
lucky for
doing it
that.
this way, they couldn't qualify for a house most
They couldn't
likely,
qualify, Yeah.
So this whole thing, now that just interest rates are higher, I think this whole thing is just really going to be very valuable. Because there are a lot of, especially like it's hard to make the numbers work now. The most recent ones, because the loans, they don't, what am I trying to say? The houses were purchased at such a high price that the mortgage payments are high, even if the interest rate was low. But, if they don't have any equity right now, what are they gonna do? You know, they're not gonna be able to sell, you know, what if you, sellers, yeah, what if you bought a property in August, you know, right before the market dropped and, you know, it's down 18% and, you know, kind of stuck. So there are some good opportunities. We haven't done any recently, but there are some good opportunities. So anyway, Larry and Teresa are really appreciative. Okay. So, these are some other things, lease options. I took a whole lease option class and then I've never done a lease option because I guess because the market wasn't really, people didn't do it for a while, I think, basically, but you guys do lease options or you have done them. Is that right? Yeah, so basically, what you're doing is just guaranteeing the person or signing option contract that says you have the right to buy the house within whatever period of time. That's basically what it is. The good thing about that is they look at it, they're better than a tenant because they look at it as they're the owner. So hopefully it works out that people up to succeed, but if it doesn't, then, you know, they end up not being able to buy it, then you can just repeat the process with somebody else. Rent to own, we've never done a rent to own. Do you guys do rent to own? Okay, so I know, if you're interested in that, there are a lot of things you can find out online about it. It's, a lot that's very similar to everything else, except you're part of their rent payment. It's a pretty low part from what I have read about it. You can set everything you want to, but anyway, part of their loan payment or their rent payment every month goes to them buying the house. So yeah, so if you're interested in that, I think there's tons about it on Bigger Pockets or whatever.
When I talk to some people.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I just think, yeah, there's a lease option, which you can do with your properties that you own, and there's a sandwich lease option, which you could do if you have a seller and you have an end term buyer and you were in the middle. Basically, you're leasing from the people or you're leasing from the seller, leasing it to an end buyer. So that's another option. Oh, and then I just thought I would mention a few other financing possibilities. This house we own with an IRA, with our self-directed IRA. If you have a self-directed IRA versus just a regular IRA, you can buy real estate or coins or guns or lend to your friend or just do any number of things. There are what are called IRA custodians, and you just have to put your money with one of them that does self-directed instead of the regular, and it's really, really easy. There's one here called Mountain West, and then we use one in Chicago called the IRA Club, which we found out about because of some investment group we used to belong to. But there are lots of them, and they're really good. You can make you can lend money to people through it. You could do really any number of things. Oh, we do have another one that's kind of crazy with that. This was a lady that was in foreclosure, and we loaned her the money to get her mortgage payment or her mortgage current, and then hopefully we get it back. Okay, these are some other things. I haven't done this, but I know they exist. HELOCs on your rental properties, you can do that. I know. Bodie's probably our resident expert on that. What would you say?
Well, what I found, it has to be deeded in your personal name. It has to be a single family home. And then there's one bank in town that can do that.
Is it Bank of the West?
Now it's BMO.
Oh, BMO, okay.
However, there are at least one or two institutions in the area who can actually do like a commercial, like loan or line of credit in second lien position on rental property.
Oh,
You just have to
okay,
dig.
sure, cool. And I also watched a YouTube video the other day about, when I was on my way out to pay it or somewhere, on an online place, the online lender. that'll do HELOCs on rental properties. So I think you just have to, dig for the information.
That's sometimes thrown out.
Okay, Pen, this was, what was it like? I don't know, gravity or something. Okay, so another thing we could have done is Plastique, if you know what Plastique is. It's a service that allows you to take the balance off of the money off of your credit cards. So it's done as a purchase and so you're not paying balance transfer fees. So that's a possibility. A DSCR loan is if you don't qualify or you don't have the reserves or whatever to get a conventional mortgage, a DSCR loan, they will cover, they base theirs on whether you can make the payments, the taxes and the insurance based on the rental amount, based on what you can rent the property for. We did one with Patrick Penner here. I think lots and lots of banks do them. Leon Baker is another one. He's our lender at Academy, and they just started to do DSCR loans, but they're like at tons of places do them. So, and then the other one, I thought this was super cool, and I don't remember the name, but you could call this guy. His name is Lane Menteberry. He is a mortgage guy around. Do you know him?
No, but I think I know. Sorry.
You probably know. I could not remember the specifics, but it has to do with your putting your personal home into a HELOC, and then you pay that.
All in one. Mortgage.
Yeah, that's what it was. So, so there are lots and lots of people around that there are like some really creative things. If you, I don't know, go to groups and just hear the speakers and meet people. And so anyway, okay, end of slideshow. Click to exit.
We gotta go over the summary.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
So takeaways for tonight. Every situation's different. And with the rates are high, it's a good time to be creative. You want to make sure that it's a win-win situation for both you and either the buyer or the seller. You don't want to take advantage of people, obviously. When looking for properties, you want to look for signs of distress. So really long grass.
Long grass, the roof is have issues. If they've got cars parked outside or stuff sitting outside, it's a good sign.
Cars that don't move.
Cars that don't move, that look like trees have grown up around them. Should we put together some pictures?
You need to know, when purchasing a property, you need to know what the seller wants, because it's not always the same thing. And I have Offer Now Idaho.
Oh, Offer Now Idaho, they are a wholesaler. They have some creative deals. You can look them up and get on their list.
And then you can buy real estate with a self-directed IRA. So,
and you can also be a private lender with that.
And also
lots of
HELOCs.
things to do with your
so
money. Cool. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everyone.